Franchise envy. Yes, this is Lance Graulich. This is when I talk to successful, happy franchisees and hear their journey as to how they got started.
Up next,
I just kind of we saw it and it just clicked to us, right? We all the creativity, where you can sell, what you can do, how it looks, the vibe. We're like, oh, this could fit here.
You heard Cliff, the CEO, talking on a podcast. I was like, a popsicle truck? Like, that is, what are you talking about? That's crazy.
You gotta love doing a pop drop.
Yes.
So today I have Amanda and Rob Kumor with Frios Pops. Welcome, guys. How we doing?
Great. How are you, Lance?
Doing fabulous. So I'm excited to have you here. How long have you guys been franchisees?
We've been since December 2013. It was when we signed on. Or 2023. Oh my goodness.
Taylor Swift's birthday, right?
That's Taylor Swift's birthday. Yeah. December 13th, 2023.
I love it. And what made you pick this particular franchise?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was kind of following that sweaty startup space that got me into, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur growing up, but I always thought you had to have this amazing idea. So you get into this sweaty startup world that introduces you to this whole concept of just running an ordinary business. So you go down that rabbit hole of small, medium business acquisitions or starting a franchise, and it kind of opened the whole world to me. And then, doing the small, medium-sized business, acquisition entrepreneurship, it kind of it's a contrarian play. But no one wants to get into food. So it's the contrarian play to the contrarian play. And that's what initially put me down this road. And then Frios is just an awesome brand. The branding's fantastic. The popsicle vibes are awesome. The flavors are good. So I just kind of we saw it and it just clicked to us, right? We all the creativity, where you can sell, what you can do, how it looks, the vibe. We're like, oh, this could fit here.
When Robbie first pitched the idea to me, he heard Cliff, the CEO, talking on a podcast. I was like, a popsicle truck? Like, that is, what are you talking about? That's crazy. But we knew we wanted to, obviously be our own bosses, do our own thing, start our own business, but we didn't know what we wanted to do yet. We didn't have our own vision. So Robbie started looking into franchising. But we also knew we didn't have a ton of capital. So this was a really happy medium for us. And then everywhere we went, after he got the earworm of Frios in my ear, we had our initial call with Allison, who's just one of the most peppy, energetic, happy people that you will ever meet. Everywhere we went, I kept thinking, Frios could be here. We could bring Frios here. And it just opened up this whole world for us. And I had never really seen myself as an entrepreneur. I did not think that was something that I wanted to take on. But with Frios, it gave me the confidence. And yeah, here we are now.
Awesome. That's fabulous. So, you mentioned something about, relating to food. Food, people do think, is a sexy business. I've owned restaurant franchises. It's not the normal, sweaty, boring startups or unsexy type businesses, but usually food is a bigger investment. This is a nice model, which we'll dig into a little bit, that isn't, $500,000 necessarily to start. So I love where you started with this. So is this your first business? What were you doing before?
Yeah, it is our first business. Before this, I was a lawyer in Delaware. Then I transitioned into banking compliance.
And I was a mental health therapist specializing in trauma. I worked with children and families in Philadelphia for nearly a decade. When we had our second child and after the pandemic and COVID, I just didn't have the emotional and mental energy to get back into it. But had no idea that's all I had ever done, all I ever imagined doing. So this opportunity came up to, instead of being there in people's worst moments, which was, a wonderful thing to be able to be there and hold space for people. But now to be able to be there in some of the most celebratory and most joyful moments, and also being able to bring that joy to our community and to people who need it most. We're actually doing pop drop later today. Today is actually International Day of Happiness. So we're surprising North Lake Community Center with pops.
You gotta love doing a pop drop.
Yes.
I want to understand. A law degree is not required to sell really cool popsicles, right?
No, it's not. It's not.
Just want to throw that out there.
It helps. It helps FDD, I will say, but.
So, what was your all-in investment? How many territories did you end up with?
Yeah, so we liquidated about $65,000 in retirement savings to kind of fund the initial investment, including the franchise purchase, working capital, and kind of purchasing the Sweet Ride. And that gave us probably a significant cushion. All in, that was like $30,000, and we had $30,000 kind of in cash to keep the business going and purchase an additional inventory.
Now describe what a Sweet Ride is.
Right, yeah. For those not familiar with the lingo, the Sweet Ride is this awesome popsicle van. It's tie-dyed, and it has the big Frios logo on it, and you can kind of just pull up and sell popsicles right out of it.
It's got lights, it's got music. We bring a bubble machine. It's just a party on wheels. I mean, you can't. Nobody's mad at you when you pull up in a tie-dye van with popsicles.
I love it.
The whole vibe. I slept in the back on the way home from Tennessee picking it up. Like, it's the whole thing.
So when a lot of people look at franchises, they consider the size of the brand, how many locations, how many franchisees. Was size a factor?
Yeah, I mean, it was. For us, where we got in with Frios, we felt that it was small enough that we could have open communication and really good support from HQ, from corporate, and have a really good back and forth conversation as the brand began to grow even more. And we really felt that they're growing very rapidly. But the way that they are expanding at this point and expanding their support, it seems is going to support the growth of the brand and the franchisees who are joining.
Got it. And what was the hardest part of launching? You've been in it a while now, over a year, right? What was the hardest part of launching this?
There's a couple things that really stick out. I think the first is kind of just getting over that initial. You feel very exposed when you show up in a popsicle truck. You come to this event
in a Sweet Ride doing a pop drop.
Yeah. Or you kind of you're trying to figure out where your sweet spot is. Where are you going to sell? Are we going to pull up in front of the art museum and sell today? That's what the ice cream trucks around here do. And it's very scary to do it for the first time. Are we going to show up at this market and no one's going to buy from us? It's very scary to get out there. But I think once you're out there, the product and the branding takes over, and it was immediate fit for us.
Once people try the pops, they're in. It's pretty incredible. If you can get someone to try a pop, the word spreads really quickly. Another thing, I mean, for us was the fact that we had to build the brand out here. Nobody in Philadelphia had heard of Frios ever. We've had maybe 2 people who have approached us who have moved from Florida or Texas or Atlanta and said, "Oh my gosh, Frios, I haven't had one of these in years," and they're so excited. But for the most part, nobody's heard of it. So trying to help people understand this isn't just your regular ice pop, this is key lime pie. We've got a graham cracker inside. This is blueberry cheesecake. It's frozen blueberry cheesecake. People are thinking you're getting a rocket pop, a bomb pop. So it's just helping people understand and building that brand.
Yeah. Believe it or not, when I opened the first Wingstop franchise in Las Vegas, we were the first ones pretty much west of, Texas, and nobody knew it. So it took time, but then it was like a rocket ship. You mentioned the rocket pop.
Hey.
It'll be the same thing for you. So a lot of folks that are looking into a franchise versus, do I start my own? Do I buy a franchise? They always stress about what the hard parts are. I mean, obviously there's a system that you're following, but when you think of some of the franchisees that might have struggled. I'm sure you hear, but what really is the biggest maybe mistake that any franchisees would make?
Yeah, I think for me, and I can't speak to everyone, but I think there's a little bit here of not wanting to put in extra money or not having an abundance mindset. Because I think that's really needed. Sometimes you have to put out like a couple $1,000s in vendor fees for events that you're not going to see a return on for 3 months. So I think the willingness to spend capital in order to make capital, I think, is a really big part of any franchise.
And also, just to kind of piggyback off on that, like just a few months in, we decided to purchase 2 more territories. And that was kind of a crazy thing, but we really saw the vision. We thought this thing can scale, this thing can get big. And we want to scoop up these territories before somebody else catches on that this is a really good idea. And so we wanted to make sure that we had, some more like wealthier markets. So, we kind of picked up a couple other territories so that we could really scale this thing. That was our vision from the start. And that was kind of like in our 3-year plan, but we had to move it up.
So sometimes plan.
Yeah, sometimes you have to like make those big moves. Like the time is not always, gonna line up with your plan, but you just have to go with it.
Yeah, I love that. And that's always a great sign when you're already in and you go to add more territory within a few months. It really goes to show what the inside perspective, really shows us. Let's talk about, I call it the show me the money type of segment, because everybody listening is wondering. All right, you had this investment. We talked about that, 30 here, 50 there. What was the total investment?
So it was
initially?
$65,000 equity, and then we debt financed the 2 additional territories for $35,000 additional. But that wasn't out of pocket. That was purely debt.
All right. So how much money can you make? That's what everybody wants to know. What kind of revenue are you shooting for? Not all businesses are throwing off instant cash, of course. There's time. You have to work on that. So what is that equation? How much money or revenue can you do? And what kind of net income are you expecting?
Yeah, so we our goal for the first year was to gross $100,000. That's what we wanted to do for the first year. And for us, we felt like that was kind of a high goal for the first year, but we met it by September.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that was doing it full. Who's working this business, and how much time investment is
So that's the big thing. If we were both in it, and that was really just the tip of the iceberg with our territories. Like we have barely touched some of our territories. So it could be much bigger. I was doing it, I would say, pretty full time over the summer, but we had to factor in childcare. Our kids were still home. They're little. They're 4 and...
Why can't the kids work the business?
They keep eating the popsicles.
They keep eating them. They're like throwing things all over the truck. It's not so good yet. Maybe in 5 years. But Robbie was working a full-time job. So I mean, I think if we had both been in it full time, honestly, I think we probably could have tripled it.
Yes, we did 135 top line last year, and that's with 3 territories. I think you can probably, this is like a total estimate. It depends how like competition in the area too. Like if you have other franchisees right around the area, and perhaps if you have some of the larger competitors in the area space, I'm guessing like 180 to 200,000 per territory. Right.
And
Yeah.
what kind of net income you think you can get? Is it 20% net? More?
I think it'd be 20 to 30%, particularly closer to 30 if you're working in it and if you're doing some of the events, but labor might take a little bit off that top.
Yeah. Well, look, based on what you invested, in no time, you're clearing 100,000 in profit. That's pretty incredible on that investment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hope, right?
Yeah,
Hopefully it keeps growing.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll get there. So, share with me one bit of wisdom that is really the cornerstone of your success and where you are today.
I mean, what I went with was our genuine connections. Like, reach out to those people who support you, support other businesses, find out who they're connected to, and just, be kind, be yourself, show up like smiling and ready to go. There are some other ice cream trucks, we don't have to name names, but some of them, show up speeding down the street, blaring their music and, smoking a cigarette out their window. And you show up with tie-dye and like nice music playing and a smile. It just makes a world of a difference.
So be happy, be nice, be professional.
Yeah. Be fun, be different too. Be different, be unique.
Robbie, your thoughts?
I think that's actually really great. Be fun, be happy, do what you're going to say. That's like 80%
Follow
of business,
through,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. You guys have been fabulous. Thank you for being here today. And I want to watch this success, this meteoric rise. And let's leave people with a big teaser. Don't say the name, but you just joined another franchise.
We did.
Oh, yeah, we did. Yes.
Well, wish you guys continued success. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Lance.
If you're ready to talk about franchise opportunities, hit the link below to schedule a call. My services are free, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for listening.